Hy-Vee. Hawkeyes.com is brought to you by Premier Auto in North Liberty. Hit a deer, call Premier. Steve Anderson and Hawkeye Title and Settlement. Mike's Lock and E-Keys for Cars. GT Car and Supple Siding and Remodeling. 1-800-800-ROSE. Active Endeavors in downtown Iowa City. Zephyr's Printing and Design and Imprinted Ink on the Ped Mall. Big Dog TV and Internet. You give them a call at 338-6600. Call local, call Big Dog. And Dirk Sterner Taxidermy. Ladies and gentlemen, Thomas Michael Suter and Pat Harty from allhawkeyes.com. And on the phone with us again is Coach Don Patterson.
Morning, Coach.
Good morning, Tom. How are you?
I'm doing wonderfully.
Hi, Don. It's Pat. How are you doing?
Pat, I'm doing well. Good to talk to you guys.
Well, before we get going on Hawkeye football, I wanted to start with the announcement yesterday, kind of the weird announcement yesterday from Kansas State that Bill Snyder is retiring. Now, what I thought was weird was it had no quotes from Coach Snyder. It said in the release that Bill Snyder announces his retirement, and then in the release there's no quotes from Bill Snyder, and then he did not do any interviews with the local media last night. But regardless, I mean, if this is the end of his career, I mean, Don, I think you would agree it's the end to one of the greatest coaching careers. And nothing against what you and Hayden did at Iowa, because it truly was spectacular, but I think you would maybe even agree that what he did at Kansas State was arguably the greatest rebuilding job ever, because at least Iowa had some tradition when you guys took over. Kansas State had nothing, really, did it?
Yeah, that's very true. It is one of the greatest jobs ever, and he didn't do it once. He actually did it twice, of course. He retired and then came back out of retirement to get it back on track again. Great football coach. I was afraid that was going to happen. I say afraid. You could argue that it should have happened a while ago. I just happened to run into Barry Alvarez at the Wisconsin-Iowa basketball game, and I said, we discussed Coach Snyder's situation, and I said, Barry, hats off to you, because you are one of the few guys that got out on top. And you might recall that that's true. He had some great Rose Bowl teams and decided that's enough and walked away from the game. Hard to do, very difficult to do. I just hate that Bill's last game was a disappointment. His last season was a disappointment. We were over in Ames for the game, and just a heartbreaking way to lose, of course. They lost that magical 17-point lead we always talk about by giving up 21 straight points to Iowa State. But all good things must come to an end. I'm happy for Bill, and that maybe he'll have time to actually do things for himself rather than for others.
So, Don, what does he do besides football? What interest does he have?
That's the problem. He really doesn't have any interest outside of football. He does have now. Things have changed in one regard. He's got more grandchildren now than he used to have. Obviously he's got a chance to spend time with family, to include grandchildren. He's still going to be, I'm sure, doing things for the state of Kansas, and maybe specifically for Kansas State. I do know. Lisa read last night that he's going to be paid $250,000 as long as he's able to still do things for Kansas State. And it's not about the money, of course. I'm sure that was someone else's idea as to how much he might be compensated for that. But I can still see him being a great spokesman for Kansas State University and for that matter, for the football program, too.
I think they called it an ambassador in the release, that he would stay doing that. And hey, $250,000 in retirement's not bad. It's not bad when you're not retired. But Don, did you find it strange that there was no quote from Bill in the release? I mean, obviously, it's no secret that there's been some I don't know if tensions. I don't want to say ongoing tensions, no pun. But the fact that he was not quoted in the release. I mean, you can kind of tell our listeners. I mean, Bill has wanted his son to take over there, but it doesn't look like Kansas State wants to go that direction. Is that fair assessment on my part?
Yes, I think so. I think that's one reason Bill coached as long as he did, trying to make things right for Sean. And it's not going to work out that way. I'm pretty confident in saying that. The fact that there was no statement on Bill's part makes me wonder if it was really his idea.
Me too.
At least publicly it'll be recognized as his idea to step away, but I suspect he might have been encouraged to do so.
So, Don, why was he able to succeed there? I mean, I know there's obviously he did a good job of recruiting junior colleges. But what was it that made him the answer to Kansas State's just century-long ineptitude in football?
Well, he made some great hires. Let's not forget about some of the people that he hired. Guys like Bobby Stoops and Venables, who's now the defensive coordinator at Clemson.
That's right.
Jim Leavitt, has done great things for Oregon and did great things as a head coach, of course, at South Florida. Lots of good coaches have come through there. There are good coaches that are there right now, and some of which I'm sure will be retained because they are good coaches. I think in the early years, somebody that was looking at it in the clinical sense, they would say, well, the smartest thing he did is he softened the schedule a little bit. The Big Eight was difficult enough, and so he scheduled some teams in those very early years in which he could beat, and they got him moving a little bit. You mentioned junior college recruiting. That was certainly a factor. Bill Snyder, I've always said when I've spoken at clinics, I've always given credit to two coaches. Of course, Coach Fry would be the obvious, but then Bill Snyder would also be mentioned on my part. And I always said I learned so much from Coach Fry about motivation, but I learned an awful lot from Bill Snyder about strategy of the game, and certainly that's had something to do with their success too. His knowledge of football and his ability to manage a game plan on game day.
So what? You, of course, were offensive coordinator before you were a head coach, and Bill Snyder's recognized as a brilliant offensive coach. What is it that made him such a great offensive mind?
I think being able to think under pressure. A game, of course, there's a little bit of pressure to perform on game day. That clock's running down, and you got to make quick decisions and good decisions to be able to be successful. So I think Bill was an excellent play caller, and for that matter, in recent years, I know he's certainly still been involved with the game planning to a high degree, and of course, just set such a great example for players and coaches about work ethic. I've always told people, if you would actually sit out in the parking lot outside of the football complex, you would probably notice that Bill Snyder's the last one to leave every night. I'll bet that was true even last week or the week before. So he's a workaholic. He understands that, football is a time-intensive thing in the fall. You finish one game on average, you got 165 hours to get ready for the next one. And, of course, most of those hours need to be spent in working mode. And he's always had a great work ethic and never really done much outside of football in the fall. It's 100% commitment to football, and that's paid off well. Made some great hires. A lot of good coaches have been with Bill there, and many of them for many years. And now some of those guys, of course, will have no choice but to move on. But I would suspect that several of them will be retained as well.
If I'm a Kansas State fan, I'm concerned because they saw it took 3 years for the program to completely unravel without him, Don, back from 06 to 09, and then he comes back and didn't build it to where it was before, but got it respectable again. How this next hire is going to be huge for Kansas State because a program like that could slip right back to the dark ages just like that.
Yeah, one thing that's changed, their facilities now are certainly upgraded a lot from previous years. I think the next guys, I'll put it this way. You always hear people say, did he leave it better than he found it? And the answer is by a million miles he did. Yeah, so I think there'll be a lot of good coaches interested in that job. Bill's made it a better job than it ever was. And of course they've been competitive in the Big 12 just about every season. Very rarely have they not been competitive. And I wonder about Venables. I've always felt he was certainly a great football coach. Now he's probably making $1 million plus as a coordinator at Clemson right now.
He's come out and said he's not interested.
If Clemson could win the national title, maybe he'd be more than willing to go back to his old school. I believe he actually graduated there. I know he coached there with Bill in the early years.
Yeah, he just said a couple days ago that he's not interested. Not that means anything. Coaches say stuff like that all the time. At some point, you would think that if he was going to be a head coach, he's still relatively young, but he's not super young anymore. He's turned down a lot of opportunities. It's interesting, too, with this opening now with Les Miles at Kansas. Did that hire surprise you at all, Don?
Well, if I were Les Miles, I believe I'd rather be the coach at K-State than KU.
Me
That's
too.
just my opinion.
Me too.
It did surprise me a little bit. And what surprised me even more How about Mac Brown back to North Carolina?
Yeah.
That's
no kidding.
surprising too.
Yes, that is surprising, and he must just want to still coach. I mean, he had a good gig in the studio with, who was he with, ESPN?
I think so.
I think he was, yeah. So
I think so.
So yeah, that's interesting. Go ahead.
I have one quick Mac Brown story. Years and years ago, this back in the 80s, I was in spring recruiting in Chicago, and there happened to be an Iowa State coach that was staying in the same hotel. And one morning we were heading out at the same time, and he said, listen, we're both here in the same hotel. We're on a similar time schedule. It makes sense to me that we might be able to forget about that game we play once a year and just have breakfast together one morning. And I said, I think that's a good idea. That guy's name was Mac Brown.
Wow.
He was an assistant at Iowa State at the time. And I've always liked Mac because he's just a good guy. The players, I'm sure, love to play for him. In many ways, he's a lot like Coach Fry, just a very personable person. Those players will run through a wall for him, I'm sure. He knows how to coach. He knows how to delegate to others. So I think, and of course, he's had success at North Carolina. That's where it really all started for him as a head coach. So it'll be interesting. I'm going to be pulling for North Carolina, if only because Mac Brown's a very good and decent person and an ideal person to work with young people.
That's a neat story.
Well, Coach, what are some of your thoughts for the Hawkeyes being selected to go back to the Outback Bowl for this will be our 7th trip, is that right?
6th.
This will be our 6th?
3rd in 3 years. Or 6 years. 3rd in 6 years.
Yeah, I know one thing. They've run into a very, very good opponent. My first observations on Mississippi State, they happen to be game 2 for Kansas State this year. So I watched the game very closely. And at the end of the game, I thought to myself, well, that's a loss that K-State will have no trouble getting over because they were simply manhandled today. They were out physical by Mississippi State. They simply were going to be hard pressed to find a way to beat them, and that's proven to hold up over the whole season. What's impressive about them? They're 8-4, but their 4 losses are to Alabama, who's right now number 1, Florida's number 10, LSU's number 11, and Kentucky's number 14. Wow. Their current college football playoff ranking is number 18. That's very impressive. Of course, to add all that up, they have a very strong running game. They have an awesome defense, and I say awesome. They've given up 144 points over 12 games.
Yeah, 12
points per game. That's amazing.
Yep.
And those four losses, those 4 teams averaged the grand total of 21 points. So if you want to beat them, the good news is you don't have to score that many. 21 will probably be enough. I guess statistically 14 would be enough. I think the teams that they beat scored something 13 points on down. So outstanding defense. They run the ball well. They averaged they had at least 5 yards gained on 60% of all their runs. That's the number 2 figure in the country.
Wow.
Quarterback that's very athletic. His name's Nick Fitzgerald. A couple of outstanding running backs, the best one being Colin Hill. And then to give you an idea, too, of what we're facing, Joe Moorhead, their head coach, who's only been there for a year, most recently was the offensive coordinator at Penn State. So think back to the offense that we saw a year ago on the part of Penn State. It's going to be similar. You're going to see, I'm sure, a lot of zone read. They're going to be run-pass options for the quarterback. He's certainly a capable runner. And some of the things that Joe Moorhead did at Penn State with their quarterback, he's doing now at Mississippi State. One thing I haven't been able to resolve, there was a fight in the old Mississippi game, Mississippi State's a huge rivalry, of course. It led to 2 ejections for MSU. The obvious question I have is, okay, if they're ejected in the 3rd quarter, do they have to sit out the first half of the next game, that being the bowl game? I don't know, but I suspect they do.
I would think so.
I don't know that. It was number 2 and number 3. Number 2 and number 3, I don't even know their names. But number 2 and number 3 on the part of Mississippi State were both ejected. I'm pretty sure they're both defensive backs. So we'll see where that goes. I'm sure we'll be able to read about it long before game time.
So 6-3 Hawkeye victory would be
okay. I got 9-8 Iowa. Don, they don't throw the ball very well.
Maybe we can hit maybe we can hit a 3-run homer in the bottom of the ninth and win 5-3 or something. But
a walk-off homer sounds good.
It'll probably be a low-scoring game. They certainly pride themselves in playing great defense. They do a good job of keeping the ball away from you, of course, and that's one of the things we like to do as well. So we better have our chin straps on tight for Mississippi State because it's going to be a very physical game, I'm sure.
The one thing, they don't throw the ball very well based on stats, but I don't know how much of that is this they haven't needed to throw the ball. But no, they're giving up 12.7 points per game. I believe that leads the nation in defense, and I've seen them play. They're very quick. They're very athletic. They pursue unbelievably laterally. They have great lateral pursuit. So it's going to be interesting to see if Iowa can sustain those blocks on those patient zone read plays, because I think that's going to be a problem. Those plays where you have to block for a while, it's going to be Don, how important is it for Iowa going to be able to run the ball in this game? Because I don't think they're going to be able to. Yeah, that's a good question. One thing in our favor, I think for a team like this, you need extra preparation time, and so It's a good thing that we have a month to get ready for the game. The other thing that comes to mind for me, just to give our listeners a lot of reason for optimism, years ago I flashed back on a great Illinois defense before we played them, and they had to just beat us to go to the Rose Bowl. Before we played them in the previous 3 games, they had not given up a single touchdown. That was 42 consecutive possessions without a touchdown. That's the kind of defense right now that Mississippi State's playing, of course. But the rest of the story is that we spent a lot of time preparing for that game out of season. We had struggled against their defense the year before and the year before that. So we put a lot of time in preparation as far as how to attack that defense. And you might remember the game. It was the Matt Whitaker game. He had a fake field goal for a touchdown. But on that day, we went out and scored touchdowns the first 4 times we had the ball. Now, that would defy logic. No Illinois fan thought that could be done. And for that matter, I don't think there were too many Iowa football players that thought we were going to score on each of our first 4 possessions, not just field goals, but touchdowns. And so it can be done. We have the time to figure out ways to attack them. The good news is you don't need a lot of points to beat them. No.
The bad news, the points are going to be hard to come by. The reason I bring it up that way, if you can figure out a specific play that can generate a big play, that's what you need to do. Because if you generate a few big plays, a few of those big plays, of course, can at least turn into field goal opportunities, if not touchdowns. Points are going to be hard to come by, but again, the good news, you don't need a lot of points to beat them. Alabama put up 24. Kentucky had 28. Those are the only 2 teams that were above 20 points. 20 points or better.
Man.
So it'll be a challenge, but that's a challenge that any offensive coach should embrace, and I'm sure our offensive staff will do that, and they'll be working long and hard to figure out a way to move the ball down the field and put up points against an outstanding Mississippi State defense.
Well, hearing you talk just reminds me what a great job Mark Stoops has done at Kentucky, hasn't he?
Boy, I guess.
I mean, seriously, when you think about it, I mean, Kentucky I've seen them play a couple times this year. They're a really good team, and Donnie's done a lot of it by recruiting in Ohio.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Of course, he's got a great name in Ohio, and it shouldn't surprise people too much. He certainly has an idea of how to coach. He learned that from Coach Fry to begin with, way back in time, but he also learned a lot from his brother Bob and his brother Mike, and it would all start with his dad. Of course, he had a chance to play for his dad at Cardinal Mooney High School there in Youngstown, and Mark's done a great job. He's the less flamboyant in the family, but he's certainly gotten great results for Kentucky, and I'm happy for Mark. He's a good guy and the kind of guy you want to have running your program.
And speaking of University of Iowa games, what did you think about the Iowa State and Drake game on Saturday?
Well, it was, there were, as Coach Brazier used to say, there's going to be a few thousand miss this game today. There were many thousands to miss that game. A miserable day to be outside, of course, and I think field conditions had a lot to do with it.
I do too.
Days like that, you wish you had artificial turf because the field certainly was an assist to Drake. Drake played an inspired game. And of course, it's difficult to get up for people like that if you've been playing against opponents like West Virginia and Oklahoma. But the bottom line is that the Cyclones found a way to earn the win, and they'll go on. As I understand, they're going to San Antonio, so that's a great opportunity.
Great game matchup.
They better be ready to defend all over the field because they're going to play a Washington State team that is going to be throwing 60 or so passes, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, they should be used to that playing in the Big 12, though.
Good point. So. Good point. So, Don, looking at the playoffs, were you surprised that Oklahoma got picked over Georgia and Ohio State? And obviously, do you think it's just Alabama heads above everyone? What's your thoughts?
Well, I did hear yesterday on the radio the point spreads for those two semifinal games. Alabama's a 14-point favorite over Oklahoma, and I believe Clemson's an 11.5-point favorite early over Notre Dame.
Yep.
Yeah, so it appears that people think there's just two really outstanding teams this year, and they'll play for the national title. Notre Dame and Oklahoma, well, something to say about that, but I think it's going to be difficult for those teams to win. As far as selection of OU, it makes a lot of sense to me. Georgia, despite giving Alabama all they want, certainly Georgia, if Georgia was a Final Four team, they'd have a chance to win the national title. But that was their second loss.
True.
They did not win their conference title, and those are points against them. Oklahoma did win over an outstanding Texas team. OU's only loss was by 3 to Texas.
Yep.
On the other hand, you can think back, they were lucky to beat Army. Army actually was in field goal range before a illegal procedure penalty backed them up 5 yards. Otherwise, Army would have beaten them with a field goal in regulation.
You know, Don, I think Georgia's better than Oklahoma. I think Georgia would beat Oklahoma, but I think Oklahoma's more deserving to be in the playoff, if that makes any sense.
Well, I understand what you're saying, and look at it this way. There are teams that play a lot like Alabama that were not able to beat them, and the most obvious is Georgia.
Yes.
But another obvious one was LSU. I thought certainly LSU might give Alabama trouble. So the teams that play stout defense, well, here's another one, of course, Mississippi State.
Yeah.
That score was 24-0. Mississippi State couldn't score on them. So the teams that play great defense and play traditional football have not been able to beat Alabama. So now we go to a team that doesn't play very good defense, truthfully, but that has an offense that is an absolute machine.
Yes.
It'll be an interesting challenge. You know, obviously, if you're Oklahoma, you're thinking somehow we have to outscore them because Alabama's certainly going to get their points. So we have to continue to spread the field and be able to beat Alabama with big plays. We're not going to be able to make as many of them as we normally do, but if we can make almost as many, then that'll give us a chance to win the game. I will say Oklahoma's defense played better in that championship game against Texas, so there is some hope for OU fans that maybe they can defend well enough to maybe win a 31-28 type of game. I don't know that they're going to be able to pull that off. I kind of doubt it, actually, but they certainly deserve a chance to do so because of the fact that they still managed to get through the season with only one loss, and that was by 3 points to a very good Texas team on a neutral field.
Donnie, both certain Ohio State can lay claim, Georgia can lay claim, maybe even UCF can lay claim to being playoff worthy this year. Do you think it's time to expand the playoff field, or are you satisfied with where it is?
You know, I've always been one that was adamant that we should leave it with the Final Four. I think you just got to realize now if you play and then you play a semifinal and a championship game, if you win the national title, that's 15 games. I think that's enough. It's a little crazy to think that it needs to go higher. I think right now in 1AA football, I think they're playing 15 games at most. As well, they play 11 regular season and then 4 playoff games at the most to win a national title in 1AA football. So I like to leave it at 4. You're always going to find a 5th team that's pretty deserving. And talking about deserving teams, to me, one of the most intriguing of all is Central Florida. Mm-hmm. Think about this for a second. Central Florida has now won 25 consecutive games. To those that say their schedule's not tough enough, they beat an Auburn team last year in the bowl season that gave Alabama their only loss, I believe, a year ago. BCS schools should schedule them if they want to look down their noses at Central Florida, schedule them and beat them. I did check Central Florida's schedule. North Carolina was scheduled for mid-September. That game was canceled because of storms. But how about this? Central Florida did beat Pitt this year. The score was 45-14. That's back in late September. They also beat a very good Cincinnati team, 38-13. So the rest of the story, there is a common opponent here for Central Florida and for Clemson. Clemson just got through beating Pitt 42-10. They won by 32. Central Florida beat them by 31. Those scores sound awfully familiar, and it suggests again that Central Florida should be in that fourth spot. Central Florida is going to play 9-3 LSU in the Fiesta Bowl. Wouldn't surprise me at all if Central Florida beat them, just like they beat Auburn a year ago. So I do think there's got to be right now. It's a big mark against you, of course, if you're not in a Power 5 conference. But I think you have to acknowledge, man, 25 consecutive wins. That's pretty amazing. And some of those teams have been pretty darn good football teams as well.
No,
I know
right.
a lot about the American Athletic Conference because that's Connecticut's old league. Central Florida has beaten some very good football teams over the last 2 years, and yet they have no chance to win the title. You know what they're going to do if they can beat LSU in their Fiesta Bowl game? They're going to rightfully claim another national championship just like they did a year ago.
I think that's funny. Don, you brought up Connecticut. What is wrong with Connecticut?
You know, it's pretty amazing that you bring that up because the players on that team that I know pretty well, a couple of them are passing up their fifth year to transfer. They're going to graduate in 4 years. They're going to be grad school transfers, one for one. And I'm going to at least run these names by Iowa football because they're two very good football players. It's really alarming if you're a Connecticut fan that these two young men would decide, you know what, we're going to go ahead and graduate and go somewhere else and play. They were a disaster this year. I believe they finished the regular season giving up more points than any defense in the history of college football, I think.
Yeah, no, it was 50, unbelievable.
A little over 50 points a game. And you know, not too long ago, Connecticut played good defense.
I was going to say, you guys had them in a bowl
we were
game.
There, we played pretty darn good defense.
You had them in a bowl game.
I don't know what's happened. What's that?
Well, you had them in a bowl game a few years ago. I mean, you guys.
We were bowl eligible in year two.
Yeah, I don't get
my last year there. We were bowl eligible and lost to a good Marshall team in a low scoring bowl game. So I don't know what's going on, but it's not good if you're a Connecticut fan. I guess right now you can just take some solace in watching women's basketball.
Yeah, big win for them yesterday.
Yeah, big.
Hey, I wanted to ask you, were you surprised? I bet you probably weren't surprised that Noah Fant is leaving. Were you surprised that he's not playing in the bowl game?
I was, I'll use Kirk's word, I was disappointed.
Okay.
I was disappointed. It didn't surprise me at all that Noah was going to declare early. Understand that he's got people telling him that he shouldn't risk injury, but you know, a bowl game is a reward for a season of hard work, or who we kidding, for 12 months of hard work, and I just hate that Noah's not going to be part of that reward at the Outback Bowl, because he certainly earned that right. He's earned the option of not playing, of course, but I just hate to see that happen. It's happened. I know that there's a really good player from Michigan that's not going to play in their bowl game either.
Sean Gary.
That's what they're hearing from agents, of course, is don't risk injury. It's going to cost you a lot of money if you happen to have a serious injury in that bowl game. But I would not want to go out that way personally. You know, I'd hate to think that I didn't get to be part of that bowl experience, and that's Noah's call. Of course, he's earned that right to make that decision. But I just think it's maybe it's a suggestion. Who knows exactly what it does mean? But maybe it's a suggestion that players are putting themselves ahead of the team. And one of the things that I've always emphasized to my players, this is not always the first meeting I have with them. I sit and I look at them sitting in the room, and I look them dead in the eye and say, "This is not about you. It's not about you. It's not about you. It's not about me. It's not about Coach Diaco at UConn. It's about our team. And if you don't understand that, we're not going to get along." And for that matter, after a big win, I don't mind sharing this, guys, with you. here's what a wise coach does after a big win in the locker room. He's looking around that locker room to see who is not happy. Because if there's somebody not happy, then that's a problem. That young man is not a team player if he's unhappy after a bowl win. Now, I can understand after a bowl win, after any big win. I can understand if he dropped 3 passes and we won in spite of his 3 drop passes. I can understand that he's upset. But you guys don't know where I'm coming from. If he's not in a celebratory mood, then it's too much about him. You know, he's a selfish person, and it's too much about him. And I don't know that Noah falls in that category. But the fact that he's passing up the bowl game makes you wonder a little bit. I'll say that. I wish Noah well. He played some great football for Iowa, and I wish him nothing but the best in his years ahead. But I am disappointed that he's not going to be part of that bowl experience with his teammates.
Yeah, and I'm beginning to wonder, too, after talking. I mean, T.J. Hawkinson is definitely right now I don't want to say confused, but I don't think he knows. I think he wants to come back in some ways, but I think he's floored by the opportunities that are in front of him. He could win that award. He's hot right now. If he gets a good grade back, I think he's gone. I really do. I mean, and that's what he said he's waiting for. Even though he loves Iowa football, I think there's a chance they both could be gone, Don.
Yeah. Well, one of these young men I'm talking about at UConn happens to be a tight end, so if Fant's taking off, at least Iowa should have a right of first refusal.
There you
go.
Say that. I agree.
So, this is maybe we can let's think back to a punter and a kickoff guy that really saved us a couple of years ago. He was a one-for-one transfer from Central Michigan, as I recall.
Huge addition to that team. You're right about that.
So you're going to call Kirk today?
Maybe we can find what's that?
Are you going to call Kirk today then with the telephone number?
I probably will be stopping by. Yeah, I want to run some analytics on Mississippi State, certainly, and maybe I will ask him if he's interested in the tight end. And the other guy happens to be a place kicker with a really, really strong kickoff leg.
Wow.
And, of course, Racinas is graduating. I don't know that we're in the market for a place kicker, but I might be in the market for a tight end.
No, you're right. Does not hurt to ask. So, keep us updated on that one, Don. Tom, do you have anything else?
No, I don't. We appreciate you being with us again this season, and maybe after the bowl game, have you on one more time?
Yeah, we'll do you want to do one right before the bowl and then right after?
Oh, that'd be great.
How about that, Don? You want to do that?
Sure. Let's see. Monday will be what? It'll be New Year's Eve, one of the.
Well,
I'll be down in Florida too.
I will probably be down in Florida. Then I'll tell you what. We'll figure it out, and then I'll get back to you, Don. We'll do it either right before, or maybe we'll just do it afterwards. Either way, we'll make sure we do at least one more.
That's fine. If you want to do one earlier in December, that's fine too.
Okay.
Just let me know.
All right, we'll do. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Coach.
Yeah,
Take care, guys.
All right, thanks, Don. I'm pretty sure I'm going. I'm not going to go till late, though. How long? Are you going to be down there, like 2 weeks?
No. Go down the 29th and come back.
I think I'm going down the 30th.
Second or third.
Because Sean Gibbs is going to be down there. There's a big press conference on the 29th. But if he's going to be down there, I'll have him get all the video and shoot all that stuff. And then
nice.
I will, but I'm not 100% sure yet when I'm going to go down.
Do you know what the media hotel is?
Yeah, it's the same one they've had. I've got it on a sheet of paper. It's the same one they've had for the last 3 bowls.
I believe we have money. Hello.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey, Adam.
Right.
Hey, Adam.
All right, well, we'll take a little break. Right now, let's go to Wells Fargo Advisors with Adam Haleska.
Thanks, guys. Good morning, everyone. Stocks finished higher for the day Friday. The Dow was up 199 points to notch its best week since October of 2016. The S&P 500 on Friday added 22 points, while NASDAQ Composite was up 57 points to close at 7,330 points, as both benchmarks posted their best week since 2011. The major averages did rally amid investor optimism surrounding the G20 summit. 10 of 11 sectors closed in positive territory, with tech and healthcare shares among the groups that were climbing more than 1% on the session. Microsoft closed as the most valuable publicly traded company in the world Friday. It increased 0.6% to $110.89 a share, pushing the company's market capitalization above Apple, which was down 0.5% on Friday. Elsewhere, AT&T was up 2.2% and closed at $31.24 a share after announcing plans to reduce its debt burden. Looking at the markets today here, Monday, December 3rd, stocks are poised to open much higher and hold that gain following the weekend meeting between the U.S. President and Chinese Premier Xi. Right now, the Dow is up 340 points, S&P is up 33, and NASDAQ is trading up 122 points on the session. Looking at Europe, markets are higher here at mid-session. The Euro Stock 600 is soaring 1.6%, with automakers pacing the gains. And overnight in Asia, China's Shanghai Composite was up 2.6% after better-than-expected economic updates that boosted investor sentiment. Treasuries are lower here with the yield on the 10-year note up 2 basis points. That's at 3.03%. In commodities, crude is up 4.3%. That's at $53.10 a barrel. And lastly, gold is up 0.9%, and that is trading at $12.31 an ounce. Once again, this has been Adam Haluska, Wells Fargo Advisors, LLC, member SIPC. If you're in the Iowa City, Coralville area, we can be reached at 319-338-3799, or you can always come in and see us. Adam Haluska, Corey Urian, and Tad Stoley. We're at 501 12th Avenue, Suite 201 in Coralville, Iowa.
You can see and hear us on YouTube or listen on the TuneIn app. Our video and audio streams are powered by the Iowa City Marketplace.
Back to allhawkeyes.com. Some breaking news. The Bulls have fired Fred Hoiberg.
Yeah, I saw that earlier.
Yeah. So
that's, I guess, not a complete shock.
No.
They were horrible.
Yeah.
He's got one more year left on his contract, too, so he'll still make about another $7 million. I think he was making he signed a 5-year, $30 million contract, I believe.
Isn't it just amazing, the money in sports, college and professional?
He was a colossal failure there. It just did not work at all. My guess is I could see him either becoming an AD at the college level, big time, or going back into the NBA executive office, because I don't think he'll recruit again or coach again, because he's made it known that he hates recruiting, and that would just, if you don't like recruiting, it would be hard to be a college basketball coach.
Absolutely. Hello.
Hey, guys. Got a question for you. Because yesterday, watching the Twitter stuff and everything about the bowl games, how do you guys feel about going to the Outback Bowl? Because a lot of Iowa people were on the Outback Bowl Twitter page saying, "Don't pick us. We don't want to go there," and that's ridiculous.
Well, then they're a-holes.
Well, I mean,
the stuff that was being said was unreal.
Yeah, I don't think there's any reason to go on Twitter to bitch, but if somebody doesn't want to go to the Outback Bowl for the 5th time in 10 years, then I don't have a problem with that. I mean, it's been there. I disagree that they're a-holes just because they don't want to go to the Outback Bowl.
Well, but to get on and to to send a message to the Outback Bowl saying don't.
Well, yeah, that's ridiculous, I guess. Ridiculous. But that's what we live in. That's social media. But there is a lot of resistance to this bowl. I've talked to a lot of people who just don't want to go there again. They just don't want to spend that much money. And, a lot of people just don't have money to throw away at bowl games. Yeah. I mean, some people are lucky that they have money that they can just throw away and go to bowl games.
My opinion on it is, and it's just an opinion, is, man, you know what, then that's fine. If I was the Outback Bowl, I'd have waited, then I'd have took Minnesota and sent our asses to Quicken Loans up to Detroit.
Well, doesn't work that way.
It could be a lot worse.
No, that's true. That is true. But if they were invited to the Quick Loan, Kirk would have been up there yesterday saying there's no such thing as a bad bowl game. We're excited. Seriously, he would have. That's just the way you do it.
I know.
That's how you do it. But no, you could do a lot worse than the Outback Bowl for the 6th time since 2005, but this is the 6th time since the 2005, so there is a stale narrative for some fans.
There is, and I was sort of looking forward to the Holiday Bowl, but that's really expensive.
But you would have went, though, wouldn't you?
Probably.
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah. But I've only gone to 2 bowls in the last, 8 years. So
really?
I haven't...
The other thing for me is just, man, I know that the excitement of New Year's Day left, but there's only 5 games and 10 teams playing on New Year's Day, and Iowa's one of them.
Yeah.
So
there's good ways to look at it.
It is. Also, I went to the Mississippi State website, and I never post. I just read what they say about, Iowa if we're gonna play them. And it was interesting reading the Mississippi State fans, a couple of them had come out and said that they had a poll a couple years ago on their message board, and it was, who do you want to see the Bulldogs play in the non-conference? And there was, like, Virginia, a bunch of teams, but Iowa was one of the, 68% of the votes was like Iowa. Mississippi State people wanted to see them play. And Mississippi State said that Iowa now they have a 9-game conference schedule, and they have a Power 5 rival, so it would be tough to get Iowa to schedule us, is what they were saying.
Which is true.
Yeah.
And but them people are really excited. They talk really highly of Iowa on their website, and they've been wanting to play Iowa or a Big Ten team. And so Mississippi State, they went ahead and scheduled Minnesota for a home and home coming up.
Oh.
Because they couldn't get Iowa. But I just thought it was interesting to see their perspective, because they're not all good things they said about Iowa. So anyway, I just wanted to let you guys know that.
Okay, well, thanks. Appreciate it. Yep.
Thanks for the call.
No, there's a lot worse things than going to the Outback Bowl. I get that. I just
and we're going to hear a lot of cowbells, guys.
Yeah, I just I don't know. I just was thinking that something different would be good. But, I've never been a big, huge fan of the bowl. Some people every year treat it like it's the moon landing. To me, it's just it's one more game that gets a month of just hype that's probably beyond what it deserves. And you go there and you either win or you lose, and you go home and you're like, wow, I just spent $4,000. That's basically what they turn out to be. And it's a vacation. It's a chance.
It's exactly what it
is.
It's
a vacation. This is finally in warm weather after last year's excursion up to the north. So, and I think it has a chance to be a good game. I think it has a chance to be a boring game. Mississippi State is boring to watch. I've watched them. Their offense is boring.
Yeah.
Iowa's boring to watch at times. So maybe Mississippi State fans want to find a team that's more boring on offense than them, because Iowa's either really exciting or nothing on. There doesn't seem to be much in between with Iowa. So,
well, as Donnie said, we need to find a way to have some big plays.
Well, I think the big thing Iowa has is they're more balanced than Mississippi State, but I just don't think Iowa's going to be able to run the ball. They don't run the ball against good teams, and they also don't beat good teams. This team has not beaten, other than Iowa State, this team has not beaten a good team this year. And Mississippi State, to me, is probably a little better than Northwestern. And probably even, there's all this talk about how Iowa was picked over all these other schools that beat Iowa this year.
Yeah.
But think about it. All those teams that beat Iowa other than Penn State finished with a worst record.
No, that's right.
The fans make a difference, don't get me wrong, but this isn't just like they're like, well, we know Iowa sucks, but we're going to take them over. Wisconsin's 7-5, Northwestern's 8-5, Purdue's 6-6. In a way, they should have taken Iowa almost. That loss to Wisconsin happened 2 months ago.
Oh, I agree with you.
They've got a better record. I don't think it's anything, we're sacrificing the product on the field to get the fans down here. No.
And Michigan State's not exciting this year.
No, they're 7-5.
7-5.
So, no, it's not like this was some blatant, let's just get those Iowa fans
not at
down.
all.
They earned it by winning 8-4 because Northwestern's 8-5. Purdue's 6-6, and Wisconsin's 7-5, and Michigan State's 7-5. Iowa was there for the taking.
Agreed. Do we have a call, Jimmy? No,
we do not.
We had a call.
I did too. Maybe I'm hearing things.
But no, it's
that was
just
businesslike.
But there was a lot of talk about that yesterday, and I get it that you kind of want to pat yourself on the back. But to me, Iowa was a no-brainer almost based on the selection. Penn State was the one team that finished with a better record than Iowa. And where's Penn State going?
And they're in a better bowl.
They're in a better bowl. So really nothing unusual happened. No, I just saw a bunch of tweets about Iowa fans should pat themselves on the back because you're the difference. You're the reason why your team got picked over 3 teams that beat it during the reason Iowa finished with better records. Purdue's 6-6.
Yeah.
So, but no, I think it's going to be an interesting game, and you're going to see that Southeastern Conference speed and athleticism on full display. But what you're not going to see a lot with Mississippi State is a lot of they're going to have a lot of skill players on offense with speed, but they don't have a lot of really good offensive players. Their passing attack's very basic. Their quarterback can run, but to me, it's hard to beat this Iowa defense if you're just one-dimensional.
Yeah.
So that's the hope I give Iowa.
Well, probably might come down to whichever team can come up with some big plays and
turnovers, and I still think whatever team runs the ball better is going to win too. I mean, Iowa's got to get some. They can't if they don't get 100 yards rushing. I just don't.
No,
think
we're
they
not
going to
win.
I just don't think they have a chance.
Hey, good morning.
Yeah, I was going to make a comment about the game. I saw on Hawk Central, I think it was, Kirk was asked about SEC defenses, and all he really needed to say was speed and more speed, because when Iowa goes down to the Outback Bowl, I just have a feeling that the difference in speed is going to be so noticeable that Mississippi State's going to roll. And, we have Smith-Marset, but can you name anybody else on the team that actually has any amount of decent speed for their position?
Well, I mean, not in that regard, but Amani Hooker to me he's the Big Ten Defensive Back of the Year, and he's not slow, but no, he's not speed, but this is also a team that's very limited on offense, Mississippi State. Iowa's got a chance to win this game, but no, they're not going to win the speed. Mississippi State's going to be faster at almost every skill position on defense and what have you, but they're still very limited on offense. They really are.
And we've been pretty successful in the Outback Bowl. We were pretty successful in the Capital One Bowl we won.
2-3 in the Outback Bowl, and they've been the last game was 30-3. I think that was against a really fast Florida defense that was missing 7 starters.
Well, we didn't look good then.
No, that's what also was very limited offensively. Too,
yes,
in that
no,
game.
I understand. I get your paranoia.
They just ran up and down the field. In Tennessee, when they played Tennessee,
yes,
I mean Tennessee had a mediocre SEC year, but they had so much more speed than Iowa, and they were just chasing air basically when they were trying to tackle their running back. So I don't know. I hope I'm wrong, but I just Mississippi State. I've watched them a couple times. Their linemen, their front 7 are all extremely fast, and our offensive line isn't all that athletic, and of course Stanley isn't that athletic. So I don't know. I hope I'm wrong, but I think it's going to be pretty ugly.
I hope
not.
I don't think it's going to be ugly, but right now I'm leaning toward Mississippi State But I mean, the Outback Bowl's been hit or miss. When's the last time they won the Outback Bowl?
Well, we've beaten Florida,
won twice,
and South Carolina.
So it's been a decade since they won the Outback Bowl.
True.
I mean, they were competitive against LSU. That was 21-14, but it never felt like Iowa was going to win that game.
No.
But they did do a good job of but I understand that fans' paranoia because the Florida game was just ridiculous. That Florida team had no reason being that superior to Iowa. That wasn't even a good Florida team when it was healthy.
No.
And it's still just...
We just laid an egg.
Just laid an egg.
Time.
You worry about that, but, I mean, we'll see. I mean, you got to play the game, but I completely understand why that fan would be paranoid about that.
No,
and Mississippi State is fast. They are very fast. Thanks, caller. But, as we said, is Iowa as good as Kentucky? Kentucky beat them. I'm thinking most Iowa fans would think they're as good as Kentucky, or, well, actually most Iowa fans would think they're better than Kentucky.
I would say we could play with them, though.
So, I mean, Kentucky beat this team, so this isn't beyond possible. I mean, there's a chance they can win this game. Let's don't make Mississippi State to be Alabama, but the caller's right. That speed has been a factor, it seems like, in most bowl games where Iowa goes down south and loses. It's because they don't have the speed and they get overwhelmed, and one thing leads to another, and boom. We'll see. I mean, they did beat Florida back in 2005. That surprised me.
And we should have beaten them the other time, too. The Chad Greenway Phantom offsides.
Those were 13 and 12, 11 years. I mean, it's been a long time. So,
yes.
But no, it's going to be on paper. It looks like a good matchup. I mean, it really does.
It does.
It doesn't look. If I had my choice, I'd rather watch Iowa State versus Washington State. I think that's going to be a much more entertaining game if you like big plays, and it's going to be interesting to see Iowa State's defense trying to contain that very complex passing attack. That's a great matchup. It really is.
No, that's going to be a heck of a game. Now, is that on the 27th?
28th, I thought. And I do agree with Don Patterson. Yeah, the Drake thing was funny, and as a Drake grad, I had some fun. But the weather played a huge. I think if the normal weather conditions, Iowa State wins that game by 4. They just couldn't. You couldn't move. You couldn't really function. I mean, it just was so hard. And people could say, well, that hurt Drake too. Yes, it did. But it still brought Iowa State down to a level that Drake
could equalizer.
It was an equalizer. And it's harder for the defense because you don't know where the offense is going. And when you're playing on an ice rink, it's hard to react when they make a move. So But no, Iowa State did what they needed to do. Both teams are 8-4. Boy, I bet that doesn't happen very often.
No, that should be an exciting game.
I'm trying to think back to when Iowa and Iowa State both finished with 8-4 records.
If ever.
Probably not, because Iowa State had the 9-3 record back in 2000 with Rosenfeld, but Iowa wasn't good. This is very unusual what we're seeing right now. It really is.
And what about when then Seneca Wallace team? They went
11 and they went 7-6. They
yeah.
tanked. One of his years, I think they maybe won 7 or 8 games, but his one year, 2002, they ended up tanking, going 7.
Yeah.
They climbed all the way to like 8th or 9th in the rankings. They were like 5-1, and then they just tanked, kind of like what Iowa did in 06, kind of like what Iowa did in 2010.
Mm-hmm.
So, but no. So, do you think Hawkinson's back?
I don't.
If I had to lean right now after talking to him yesterday, the fact that he's entertaining it so much and is waiting so much for the grade, he's definitely interested. And what he told me, he goes, "I'm not chasing money."
Yeah.
He goes, "I want to play at the highest level and test myself." That's what competitors do. And he is 3 years into college, so it's not like this is some NBA one-and-done type.
Yeah.
He did redshirt. This is his 3rd year of college. I mean, someone asked, he says he's maybe 2-3 semesters from graduating. You can easily do that stuff. So,
I mean, you have a better feel for it because you've actually talked to him, and my view is just, I think he's going to grade out pretty well.
I do too. He's 6'5", 250.
Great
he can
blocker.
Jump. He's turned into a good blocker. He's got good vertical. He's not going to test as well as Noah Fant at the combine, but I think when the way the advisory board grades these guys is a little different than the combine, I think he will score high, and I think he's hot right now. What are the chances of him being a finalist for the John Mackey next year?
Pretty good.
Well, you don't know. I know, especially without Noah being a decoy.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't think the chances are pretty good. I think that's why he may be saying, "Hey, I got to strike while the iron's hot."
Hello?
Yeah, hi, guys.
Hello.
George Kittle's success will have an impact on how the NFL views Hawkinson, because Kittle's numbers weren't near the numbers that, he didn't get near the attention that Hawkinson is.
Mm-hmm.
NFL that'll be a factor, don't you think?
Oh, I think it'll definitely help. I mean, it does not hurt, because I think the Iowa name does pull some weight. And then you got Dallas Clark, who did have all the stats and who did become a star in the NFL. So, yeah, and they've had others. I mean, they've had other tight ends that have made – I mean, Tony Jackson played in the NFL for 4 or 5 years. He was basically – Scott Chandler, Eric Jensen.
Fedorowicz.
They've had a ton. So, yes, I think that definitely – well, Brandon Myers. We had Brandon Myers on about a month ago.
Yeah.
He had 79 catches one year. So, yes, I think
the NFL, they like our tight ends. He's going to get a look.
Oh, he's definitely getting a look. I mean, Mil Kiper's got him 5th on the tight ends right now, and that was from his last rankings about a month ago. And he had Fant number 1, and he had Fant going 11th overall. Fant would be crazy not to go out right now.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I wanted to comment on Pat's comment earlier about how Iowa had not beaten a good team.
Iowa State.
Iowa State wasn't.
No, I said Iowa
State when we beat them. And Iowa State was not a good team when we beat them.
Well, I mean, they were. Purdy wasn't playing. You're right, and what have you. But I'm still going to give Iowa that one victory because they still beat a 8-4 ranked team. But no,
I agree.
They were not. Brock Purdy wasn't playing. They were not. They were a shell of what they were by the end of the season. Yeah, I agree.
The 5 Big Ten teams that we beat this year were the 5 of the bottom 6 in the conference.
Yes.
And their combined Big Ten record is 13-32.
Yeah, no,
that ain't
great. 5 teams we beat.
Yes, no, you're right.
We didn't play Rutgers.
Yeah, well, they would have beat Rutgers.
Yeah,
but no, you're right. I mean,
you would think so.
I mean, it is what it is. Iowa's 9-9 over its last 2 years in the Big Ten,
and that ain't great.
And that's not great. And there haven't been a lot of other than the Ohio. You got the Ohio State. And you got that big thing standing out there. But no, you're right. They have really not.
The other thing I found interesting is there's 5 teams from the West that made bowl games. They are all fairly heavy underdogs, all of them, and the average point spread is 4.8 on the 5 West teams.
What's Iowa's right now? What's Iowa's?
6.5 is the spread.
They're underdogs.
Yes.
Okay. 5. Oh, it's down to 5 now. Okay.
Oh, so it's moved already.
Oh, it'll move. it'll move a lot, I think, over the next.
I think it showed 5 this morning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
That does not surprise me. I mean, I think Mississippi State right now does look a little better than Iowa, and I think they're going to get the benefit of the doubt because people are going to say, well, they played in the SEC, they played a tougher schedule.
Generally, I think in the bowl games, having about a month to prepare, I think in most cases that favors the underdog, but not always. But I get the feeling it allows you a little more catch up than it's a lot different than. I feel better about having 30 days to work on the plan than to play them next Saturday.
No, I agree. And where they have to work the hardest is on offense. They have to figure out ways to move against their defense. I think the Iowa defense is going to do okay against Mississippi State's offense. I think they'll have some struggles, don't get me wrong, but Mississippi State's offense is not very diverse. They don't throw the ball very well, and I just think Iowa's defense, you can't dominate Iowa's defense by being one-dimensional. So
I think you nailed it earlier when you said it's going to be the difference, and Don said that too. It's going to be based on who can hit some big plays, and who can avoid turnovers.
Yep, that'll be it.
That's what's going to do. Yeah. Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you.
Thanks
Appreciate
for the call.
Some good info.
Yeah, very good info.
But no, I will be the first to say Iowa has not beaten anybody good this year, other than Iowa State. I mean, and Iowa State was not the team they are now when they played Iowa because Brock Purdy wasn't playing, and he has made a huge difference.
Maryland, not awful, but not a great team, certainly.
No, I mean
maybe not even.
Maryland's
very uneven.
Maryland didn't even finish 500.
No, they finished 5-7. Yeah,
they beat Indiana 5-7.
Mm-hmm.
They beat Nebraska 4-8.
And almost beat Ohio State 52-51 was the final. And that was another reason why Ohio State didn't get in addition
it probably didn't
to
help.
Purdue.
No, it probably didn't help. Well, and
Northern Illinois won the MAC. Is that where
they went 8-4? No, that's their other quality win.
Yeah.
Iowa owns the MAC.
Yeah, MAC champion.
But
transitive property.
That probably has something to do with Mississippi State being favored. But I also think Iowa's recent history of going to these bowls down south, I mean, between the Tax Slayer and the last two Outback Bowls, they've lost all those games. And two of them, they weren't even competitive. And it's what happened was what the caller said. The speed from the SEC teams was overwhelming. I mean, I remember you were disgusted after the Florida game.
Disgusted.
Did you go to that?
No. I mean, but how 30-3, they had 7 of their starters out on defense, and we couldn't do anything.
That was CJ's last game.
Oh, it was ridiculous.
And did they leave him in the whole game, too?
Yeah. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, but I don't think we're going to see that again. I would hope not, because that will be. Now, if they go down there and they get pounded by Mississippi State, this will be not a good 8-5. That will not be a good 8-5.
No.
That will not be a good 8. There's a good 8-5, but a good 8-5 would have been 15, 20 years ago in this run. 8-5s aren't. Or let's say they had some early injuries and were devastated midway through the season, but then all of a sudden they rebounded to win their last 4 or 5.
Yeah.
That would be a decent 8-5, but this would not be a good 8-5. Even if they lose a close game, this will not be good. They have to win this game because there's a big difference. I know there's not math-wise, but 9-4 and 8-5 is a huge difference.
It is. And the other thing is against our peers, this is the number that I really don't like is the 9-9 in the Big Ten the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is probably the most important measuring stick of any, and we are just strictly, completely average against our peers.
Well, then you take away the Ohio State win, which I know you can't take it away, but that's the only win against a good Big Ten team they've had in 2 years.
It's an outlier.
It's an outlier.
And,
it really is.
Yeah.
And, no, that's the caller's right. And saying that, and Iowa State was not very good when Iowa beat them. They were good on defense, and they showed it. They held Iowa to, I believe, 279 yards.
Yeah, and 13 points.
So, yeah, but Iowa still did what it had to, and that right now, when's the last time an 8-4 Iowa team could say its best win was against Iowa State? Think about that.
No,
how weird this season's been.
And it has been weird, and we were close to winning all 4 of those games.
Yes.
And we didn't win any of them.
No.
That's the point. I mean, you make a good point. We didn't get blown out by these teams.
By nobody.
But we did lose.
But we did lose, and we lost all of them.
4 of them.
Yep.
4 of them.
Hello?
Hey, morning, guys.
Morning.
Hey, yeah, I called before a while back. I said, quality wins. Right, Ohio State, but That's why I say parents 7-5 every year. We've not, over the last bunch of years, showed multiple quality wins to get us to that next level. So until we get there, I don't have a whole lot of faith.
Well, history says you're right, except for you're right, except for 2002, 3, and 4. You're exactly
that
right.
was how many years ago?
Yeah.
Well, a few out. Yeah, but that's right.
That was a long time ago.
But as far as
So I'm
sustaining,
just saying, last 6 years has just been very, very mediocre. You know.
I mean, that's
well, 12-0 in the regular season in 2015.
But I know, yeah, he's a
mediocre.
little bit getting carried away, but I do agree where he's coming from, and there's a lot of fans that feel the same way.
There are.
There are fans that feel the same way, but I got to remind people that Iowa football, as great as it's been for the last 40 years, has also averaged 7.5 victories over the last 40 years. It is what it is. I mean, Hayden Fry is great. Don't get me wrong. I love the man. He's done so much for so many people. He touched my family with his kindness and what have you, but he averaged 7.5 wins, and let's face it, the 1990s weren't great.
No.
They weren't great at all. I mean, his best year after the 10-1
Well,
was
he got to the Rose Bowl with
1990.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then, I mean, 1990 he got to the Rose Bowl, and then after that, they didn't sniff the Rose Bowl again, really.
No.
Well, 91, they won 10 games, but they lost. They got pounded by Michigan at home, went and tied the Holiday Bowl. But I just think some fans need to keep things in perspective. You become a prisoner of the moment, and you make things either better or worse than they are. But I also guarantee you, if they win this game down there, and the media, you know what we're going to do, springboard to greatness, 2019. That will be the narrative, springboard to greatness.
Well,
because that was the narrative for the Pinstripe Bowl this year.
Well, of course, because we had lost 5 bowl games in a row.
Well, and I do think the media stokes the fire more than we used to 2030.
I think
There's
you're right.
way more homer, way more promote, way more, hey, look at this, what I've got. Look what Iowa could be next year. Click on my story. There's way more of that stuff right now. So I don't blame the fans entirely. I'm right there causing it. I do that stuff,
Well,
too.
there's more media now,
I don't
too.
do, it does seem like there's more media. I don't do as much as some people, but I guarantee if they win this game, there's going to be your boy in Des Moines. There will be just, boy, here, watch out, 2019. Here come Nate Stanley Sr. If Hawkinson comes back, watch out. Epinesa will be starting. The Hawkeyes are on the loose. That will be the narrative if they win this game.
Well, and it's, history says that we're going to win 7 or 8 games next year.
I went through the schedule quickly a while back and had them 7-5.
Yeah.
Next year's schedule is way more difficult.
It is. It is.
They're 5 road games. I mean, you could say without hesitation they're going to lose all 5 of them.
They're brutal.
I mean, they're brutal. They're at Wisconsin. They're at Nebraska. They're at Iowa State. They're at, is it Michigan?
Uh-huh.
I mean, they're going to probably lose all those games, more than likely. More than likely if you base it just on percentages.
Yep.
So, boy, they better protect the home court. I mean, that's the thing. So, because, and Kirk would be the first to admit, the deeper you go into a coaching rant, when you're into year 20, fans love you more during great times, but there is a faction of resistance and people that are bored and stale, and they're out there. And
The ference fatigue.
Yeah, the ference fatigue. And
Yeah,
I'm not saying they're right or wrong, but that they're out there, though. And I think Kirk knows that.
Well, and they've got a point.
And they do, because anytime you're in this deep, you just, if the results aren't what you want, you get bored quicker because you've seen it so often.
I mean, even K-State, there's
Snyder fatigue.
Absolutely.
And they didn't want to get his.
And
they didn't want to hire
Oklahoma wanted to get rid of Bobby Stoops, or a lot of people.
I think Bobby
did.
Stoops knew it. Bobby Stoops no idiot. I think he knew that some fans were getting patient. So I do think there is pressure on Kirk, because I mean, let's say Iowa football goes 7-5 the next 3 years. What's the morale around the program going to be?
The
like?
next 3 years?
Let's say they go 7-5 the next. Okay, next 2 years they go 7-5. Let's say they win one bowl game and lose another, so they're 8-5 and 7-6.
I think.
Where is Kirk going into 2021?
I think the Wolves are at the door.
I agree.
And maybe snapping at his jaws.
But would the Iowa administration be acknowledging that, or would they be saying, "Hey, we've been to 2 back-to-back, we've been to bowl games"? Or would they do the big picture spin where, "Hey, we still went to back-to-back bowl games, we still finished with winning"? I mean, Iowa has no history of firing a coach with winning records. That's where we are, though, with this thing with Kirk, to where for some fans to be satisfied, he's got to go 9-3, 10-2 this deep into the run, because they're tired of it, and so they're always looking for ways to kind of You know what I mean? Kind
I
of
know exactly what you mean.
Poke at the armor, so to speak.
And I'm on the fence there. I mean, I'm a big Kirk Ferentz fan, and I've supported him from.
But can you fire
day
Kirk
one.
Ferentz for going 7-5?
I don't think that you can, but I wouldn't be completely satisfied either as a fan because.
And that's the predicament.
It should be better than it is a predicament.
I mean, it is. I mean, if like Feeney's always said, he'd rather have an Iowa coach that he wants to get rid of go 0-12.
Oh, it was easy with
Lick
Lauterbur and easy with Lick because there's no question.
Lick just said, "Hey, fire me. I'm horrible." But the 7-5s and the 20-13 basketball seasons where you win 1 or 2 games in the NIT, those. I mean, this is going to be interesting. I mean, it's
well, and it depends how you look at it. I mean, we know from history that Iowa is a bad football hire away from being Illinois, being Indiana. I mean, we just are. Mm-hmm. And we've been there. We saw it happen. And, yes, I know football has changed.
But you also can't be afraid to make change.
No,
either.
Of course not. But, I don't know what the percentages are, but there's so many head football changes every year. What percentage, I wonder, work out to where the team really does go to the next level?
That's
I wonder,
good. Yeah, that's
has anyone done the...
I'm sure somebody has. I obviously haven't because that would be a lot of work, and I hate working.
It would be a lot of work, but I think it would be real interesting to find out.
Sounds like something Don Patterson would do.
And I am guessing that the analytics are out there, and I'm guessing... generally, the teams don't go to the next level.
That would probably be my guess, too, if I had to. That's why Iowa's situation was so unusual. But it is. It's just going to be interesting because, okay, let's say they go 8-4 next year, but they lose to Iowa State, Nebraska, Wisconsin, and Michigan. Are fans happy?
See, who would we beat then? We'd beat Minnesota, Maryland. We'd beat the same people, Northwestern.
Yeah.
So it would be the same thing. But there's no big win either. So, no, I think there'd be grumbling.
See, we're at a stage where even someone like yourself, who's pretty optimistic, acknowledges that 8-4 could be grumbling. And see, that's where...
And I hate, and I remember the 0-11. Okay, I was here.
Yeah, but what you're saying, I don't think you're dismissing that.
No.
I think you're basically adjusting to the times at hand because we hear them with callers. I mean... There's some people that right now I think the only way they'll be happy with a coach going this deep into the if he goes 10-2 or 11-1 every year, and we know that's not going to happen.
No, and I can't say that I'm happy with this year. I'm not completely unhappy.
No, you can't. I mean,
but it was close to being a great year, and it isn't.
Right.
It just isn't.
Do we have a call?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Hello?
Go ahead, caller.
Hey, guys. I call him back. I got another question about these coaches since you guys are talking about it.
All right.
Do you, when the time does come, and it's just like, to me, when we have this conversation, it's almost like, when you got to put your dog down, I think, I'm saying like, well, when the time comes, it's just.
So you want to euthanize Coach Ferentz? Wow.
What's that?
So you want to euthanize Coach Ferentz?
No. I'm just saying, because I like Coach Ferentz, but it's just like, I totally agree because I think it is when it happens, how do I say this? I don't think it's going to be like nobody's going to want this job. This is not going to be like an Illinois job, where, I think there'll be guys that will want it, but will they use it as a stepping stone? Do you go after somebody from like the MAC or the Mountain West? Do you let Brian Ferentz do it? Do you go after someone like Mark Stoops? What would you guys prefer to see happen?
That's the question, isn't it?
Well, that's the big question. I think Kirk would like to see a succession, but 8-4 won't do a succession. The only way he does succession if he wins the Big Ten title and has a couple of double-digit win seasons. I think that's what ideally he would like to do. But, no, I think if Kirk left and there's no succession plan in place, I think Mark Stoops would be a no-brainer, at least a candidate. And to me, if I'm Mark Stoops, I'm leaving Kentucky to go to my alma mater in the Big Ten that has way more tradition in football than Kentucky does. But that's just me. I think Mark Stoops would definitely be somebody. But, guys, we're nowhere close to being there because listening to Kirk talk yesterday, Kirk still loves doing this.
Yep.
He's still winning enough to keep doing this. He still does everything else right as far as being an ambassador for the program, and he's healthy. Kirk's 63. but he's very healthy, and I could see Kirk still doing this for another 3 to 5 years if he gets his way and wins enough.
I agree. I just think if the plan's got to be that, he would like Brian to take it over.
Oh, I think that's definitely his wish.
If they don't, have a couple of big years here doing this, then there's no way you can do that.
No, you're right.
And then you just say, Brian, look, here's the deal. Someone else is going to come in, and we're going to get fresh blood in here.
Yeah.
If you know what, dude, if they come in and someone falls on their face, and you go and go try your luck and prove yourself out of Miami of Ohio, and it works out in the end, and you want to come back and resurrect what your dad did, more power to you, dude. But we got to go a different direction.
Well, and look what's happening in the Big Ten West. Okay, Nebraska's getting better, Minnesota's getting better, Purdue's getting better. Even Illinois was considerably better this year. Everybody's getting better, except Wisconsin fell down this year. Iowa stayed about the same. And who am I forgetting? Is there one other?
Northwestern.
Northwestern won the conference.
Yep.
So, I mean, if I was going to go up, who's going to go down?
Exactly. I think the Big Ten West, with Brom staying and whatnot, I mean, I think the Big Ten West is on the up and up.
Oh, I do too.
Absolutely.
I agree with you. And as much as we joke, Nebraska is on the up and up.
No question.
And so, it's going to be an interesting 2 or 3 years, but Kirk sounded like he was energized and ready to just keep going yesterday. He shows no signs of somebody who's slowing down.
Okay. All right, guys. Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for the call. So,
thank you.
History says 7 or 8 wins next year. There's also some history to point to that says Iowa could go 10-2 and go to the Rose Bowl.
Well, let's see. They've gone now 16, 7. They've gone 3 years. Usually it's about 4 or 5, every 4, 5, 6 years they throw. So maybe next year, but the odds would be more towards 2020 if you kind of space it across. But I mean, sooner or later, Kirk's. And I think everyone thought this was going to be one of those 10 and 11 win seasons.
And it was right there
when they were 6-1.
Right there, but we didn't get there.
Yep. Hello.
Having a long-time coach is like having a long-time caller. The first couple of years when they call in with history and rock and roll birthdays and stuff, it's okay. And then sooner or later, you just want to take them to the vet and have them put down.
Okay.
Well, that's harsh. Very harsh.
It's kind of like being in a relationship with somebody. The love is there, but it's not as deep as it used to be, and you're at a point where, like, do I continue this?
So did we just have a subliminal that's time to put Dirk asleep?
I think so. He did.
I don't
and
think
the other guy wanted to euthanize Coach Farrell.
I don't think there was anything subliminal about
it.
It's
been a dark turn here.
But speaking of rock and roll birthdays, Ozzy Osbourne, 70 today.
Yes, he is.
I mean, should we all just stop?
That's amazing.
Should we all stop and snort some ants?
Something.
Never a big Black. Were you a big Black Sabbath fan?
No,
never was.
No. Hello.
Hey, hello there.
Hello.
Hey, I just wanted to give a little bit of a take on my what kind of a record we finished with. I mean, I'm thrilled with 8-4 if we beat Nebraska.
Which they did.
If we occasionally pull off those big wins.
Which we didn't.
I mean, if we can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, cool. We own Nebraska. I know they're getting better. They're getting better. Just,
last second field goal, it wasn't pretty.
What's that?
It wasn't pretty. We had to win on a walk-off field goal.
Oh, I know. I was so disappointed. There we are at the 2, and we don't kick the field goal to go up to 31-13. And I didn't like that comment. Well, we were playing to win the game. Well, you're playing to win the game if you're up 31-13.
That's good.
No, I
agree.
So that was very. But I don't know. I'm stuck here. I live in Iowa City. I got the Hawkeyes. This is what I've got, so I'm going to live with it. But boy, I sure hope Stanley gets over that hump and mentally can just take everything in and roll with it next year, because it could be a lot of fun.
It could be.
And as far as Mississippi State, I love tuning in and listening to you guys' sports show. They're great with Pat, and if we can, if we can, I don't know. I just love everything you guys said. If our defense can handle their one-dimensional situation, they got going on offense, and we can handle their speed and settle in and play with them. It could be a great game.
Oh, I think it's going to be a good game.
I do too.
I think it's going to be a close, competitive game. I really do.
I hope so, Pat, because and I like the way you analyzed it too, because you probably hit it right on the nail. But there's some good hope for us there, and at least I look at it as an opportunity.
Oh, yeah. It's another month to practice and play. I mean, that's one of the things Kirk likes about a bowl game.
Get some guys healthy.
Yeah, no, without question. I think they got a chance to win 9 games. I mean, think about that. I mean, that's
and I can't be disappointed with that.
And a victory will assure them a top 20 ranking at the end of this season. That's something you promote, and you can use it to your advantage in recruiting. No, there's a lot to winning this game. There really is.
Yeah. Hey, is Drew Cook? You think he'll see the field for that game?
Well, yeah, because he actually saw it a little bit against Nebraska. I mean, Byers out. Right now, their tight ends are Hawkinson, Whiting, and Drew Cook. And then Nate Vovoda, but Drew's ahead of him. Yeah, I think you'll see a lot of Drew Cook in the bowl game.
I hope so. That would be great.
That would be neat. And that'll help Drew for next year. Yeah. I think if Drew's going to play a lot next year. Even if Hawkinson comes back, I think he's still going to play a lot. But
he's moved up in the pecking order. So just in the practice for the next month, he's up
right
in that next level.
Yeah, he'll get a lot of looks, so that'll be good.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. Marv's boy comes in there, and so that's huge right there. That's a positive.
Yep.
And hopefully the running backs. Dad was talking about that yesterday. I was talking about my dad about that. I said Iowa's running backs. It's a little bit different. They can be good once they learn the flow of our blocking. Is that correct? To cut that.
Well, the zone blocking requires some patience.
Sargent was learning that, right?
Yeah, the zone blocking requires some patience. I think Iowa's got 3 adequate to better than adequate running backs. None of them are stars. I think Mekhi Sargent's probably the most versatile, and you're starting to see him emerge a little bit, but none of them are going to go all Sean Green on us.
And how much higher are their ceilings?
I think they're kind of where they are now. I think next year, if you have the 3 of them, you hope they can get 1,500 yards rushing between the 3 of them.
Yeah. All right, well,
appreciate the call.
Well, thanks, guys. You have a great radio show. I appreciate it.
Thank you. That's a good call.
Appreciate you listening, too.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Goodbye.
That was a good call.
No, that was a good call. How about that photo of George Bush's service dog in front of his coffin?
Isn't that the greatest?
Yes. It really is.
And then that dog is going to go and help other veterans.
Yep.
After this.
I saw that thing, and I'm just like, man, sometimes we don't deserve dogs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dogs are the best.
They really are. Hello.
Hey, good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Could I change the subject to basketball?
Yeah, I was getting ready to say before. Yeah, we do have a pretty big basketball game tonight.
I'm intrigued by the ads that have been running, the "Get Dolph Back Where He Belongs" ads.
Mm-hmm.
Are those broadcast clips? Are they in the public domain now, or does anybody know?
Learfield has come out and requested of their affiliates do not air those commercials, and yes, they feel that is their intellectual property. Correct?
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, in other words, the people doing that are risking legal action. Don't know whether it would happen, but it's conceivable.
They didn't come out and say you cannot air this commercial, but they did come out and say please do not air this commercial. Yeah, they made it pretty clear.
Has the university taken a position on this?
I have not seen anything of you.
I haven't seen anything on that.
No, the university's kind of made it, hey, Learfield is the one who did this 2-game suspension. We agree with it, what have you. But, no, I haven't seen anything from the university.
No, and we're not a Learfield affiliate, so we're running the commercial.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a commercial buy. That's what we do.
I'm just curious as to where the people would have gotten the material.
Well, they got them from clips. I mean, you can tell they're from.
But couldn't Learfield say, "Hey, you better stop running. That's our material"?
Yes, they could.
They could do it.
So they're obviously not doing that, right?
Evidently not.
Okay.
So there's some reason that they're not doing that.
That's
Maybe
probably
they just don't want to come off as complete a-holes.
Or continue the story.
Continue the story.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's part of it too.
This
But
is
no,
going to
that's-
be done. The suspension ends tonight, right?
Yes.
Right. Yes.
He'll be back for the Iowa State
So
game.
I imagine the commercials will stop shortly after that, and then he'll be back on.
Well, if we lose tonight, 0-2 without Dolph. Hello.
But they were 4-14 with him last year.
Good point. Point counterpoint.
Well, just a technical question. Maybe, Tom, you know this. Where would somebody, assuming they didn't get them from Learfield, where would they have made their own recordings, or how would that have happened?
Well, anybody can record anything that's on the air. So,
Right.
I mean, they obviously didn't call Learfield and say we're going to use these clips. So, they recorded their own clips, of course.
So and kept them in a library or something.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good
Those are
question. I
Yeah.
have no idea how they did it.
But yeah, I mean, no, they didn't call Learfield and say send us some Dolph clips. We're gonna
Run a big ad against you guys.
Yeah.
But no, that's a good question. I mean,
Yeah, it is.
I understand
It's
your
just
curiosity.
intriguing.
It is. I would agree with that. Do you think they're going to win tonight?
Well, probably not, but
That's the
hope
safe
springs
route.
eternal.
And I will say, Michigan State, don't get me wrong, they're good, but this is not an invincible Michigan State team.
And I agree with that. The bad news is history at East Lansing were 3 of the last 21.
Well, they had lost 18 in a row, so that tells
Yes.
you something right there.
And we've lost, the average?
9 of the last 11 in the series.
The average loss is like 21 points.
Yeah, so
and
yeah,
some up
history
there.
shows that they probably aren't in a very good position.
But-
But like I said, this Michigan State team, I'm not completely convinced it's a really good team.
We're going to have to shoot better than we did against Wisconsin.
And Bohannon at some point is going to get hot again.
Yes, he is. Sure he is. And if he does tonight, we might very well win it.
And yeah. Well, we have a bad shooting night from Bohannon and Wieskamp on the same night. We're going to have a hard time winning.
You're going to have a hard time winning anytime Bohannon has a hard time shooting because when he's making threes, they're just a completely different team. It's almost like when the Iowa football team's running the ball. It has that kind of effect.
Exactly, because we can't count on Isaiah Moss.
No, he's too
Can't count on Macy.
Can't count on Bear.
Can't count on Bear.
You don't want Garza. I mean, he can make threes, but you don't want him living behind the three. Tyler Cook should not even shoot threes.
No.
I mean, it's Bohannon or bust, really.
And Connor's not a great shooter.
No.
I mean, he's not bad.
Well,
but
maybe we'll get lucky tonight. Who knows?
There you go.
Well, that's part of it. You got to have a little luck, but I don't think this is insurmountable. I think they got a chance to win this game. Like I said, Michigan State's averaging a bunch of points. Their defense isn't as good. And let's see. I just think like if Bohannon's hot, and the thing with Iowa, Bohannon and Moss could come out and combine for 11 3-pointers.
They sure could.
And then if that happens, Iowa's really tough to beat. And so we'll see.
If we do that, we have every chance to win. Absolutely.
I don't think this is a for sure loss. Now, if I had to bet, I'd be leaning toward Michigan State, obviously, but I definitely think Iowa has a chance. I'll be very disappointed if they go up there and just lay an egg.
And the way I'm sitting on this, I'm not sold on Michigan State, but I'm not sold on Iowa either.
And if they go up there and lay an egg, then they've lost. Then right now they will have lost 16 of their last 20 Big Ten games. Think about that. So
They're sitting on 0-2 for almost a month.
And look who their last 3 of their last 4 conference games are at Ohio State, at Wisconsin, and at Nebraska. Chances are they're going to lose at least 2 of those 3 games.
Yep.
So got to win.
Yep.
Okay.
It's a long
All right,
season.
thanks. Appreciate it. It is a long season, but you can really condense that schedule. If you start 0-2, that's just not good. I know I'm sounding like Captain Obvious here, but
no,
it
isn't
not good, especially when the schedule ends so tough.
And it really wasn't good last year for us to lose that game to Penn State. Was just killer. We never recovered.
No.
Hello.
Hey, it's lonely old Grandpa Dirk.
Hey, Dirk.
Hey, Dirk.
Morning, guys.
Sup, G?
I think I like our chances tonight. This is, as you've discussed, not an overwhelming Michigan State team. They struggled at Rutgers this weekend. And
they did win by 11, but...
But what's really nice is looking forward to Hawkeye men's basketball games again.
Yes.
The 5:30 tip. Got to love that.
No, I don't.
It's dinner with the Hawkeyes.
That messes with my supper time.
It's dinner with the Hawkeyes.
Yeah,
that's going to be
it's kind of hard to make dinner when you're trying to watch the game.
It is a weird time. Dinner, 5:30 tip-off on Fox. I mean, think about that.
Ooh, interesting email here.
Can you share it?
Talking about the radio buy, the Dolph radio buy.
Yeah.
A lady checking in with making sure that we ran them over the weekend, which of course we did, and want to know if we can accept a few more spots.
And my guess is you're saying bring it.
Let us think. No, okay.
You need to call Steve. You need to call and get the. Hey, Steve, we have a chance to earn some more money.
You wouldn't even be able to get that sentence out.
Well, speaking of Dolphin, did any of you watch the very first Fight for Iowa TV show last night with Fran?
No.
Yeah, they had a young man named Matt Nelson.
Yeah,
as the host of
he
the
works
show.
for the university.
Well, he looks like he is a university student. He did
He's not a student. He's been around for a while.
Oh. Well, he is a young-looking gentleman.
Yeah, I think he may be younger. He's got it. I mean, he's been around for at least 10, 15 years. I mean, Matt's been around. So, yeah, so obviously they didn't. Dolph was not going to do the show either. I thought maybe they might have Jim Albrecht do it.
I wondered how they were going to handle
It's
it.
just easier, though, just
have
somebody internally do it. I did watch a little bit of it. I thought he did fine.
Yeah, he was fine.
But no, Matt's been over there for a while.
I had a little correspondence with Jim before the game, and I said, it's probably not the most opportune way for you to fill in. And he says, well, I've done it before. And
He
I said,
has.
and I know he has because he does it when Dolph is doing the bowl games and stuff like that, or if he's got a conflict. And he did a great job Friday night.
I thought he did great, too.
Did he call it the biggest moment other than doing KFMH with you guys? That's the pinnacle, isn't it?
He didn't go that far. He
All
said,
right.
He says, I've had some great memories in my broadcast career.
No, I listened to him, and I thought he was fine. There's other people that, oh, my God. If you don't really
liked him.
If you don't really pay attention to the announcer, to me, they're doing a good job. And I
Right.
thought he was fine.
That's exactly right.
I thought he was fine. I
That's
thought he was
exactly
adequate.
right.
There's times where Gus Johnson just overwhelms me when he's doing a game. I mean, some guy will dribble twice and make a layup, and you would think we just landed on Venus or something. I mean,
Well, my dad always said, the best announcers are the ones who
Blend in.
don't think that they're the story.
yes.
Right.
Just like officials, too. The best officials are the ones you don't pay attention to because the game just goes smoothly. So, but no, Matt Nelson is a university employee, and my guess is Dolph may miss one more show. It'll depend on when they tape it. Now, he is back on Friday.
I don't think they'll miss another one.
It's going to be, well, if they tape it before Friday, he'll miss it, and they have to tape it before Friday because they'll tape the next one probably, I would think, on Wednesday. And maybe I guess it depends. Does the suspension end right at the end of this game? I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, we don't know, Dirk. You don't know that. I mean, we don't know.
Well, everything they've released, information-wise, leads to that.
They said he's had a 2-game suspension, but that doesn't mean the suspension doesn't last until right going into the third game. We don't know. So I don't know if golf will do the next TV show or not.
Does anybody else think that the over-under for Iowa-Mississippi State at 41 is way high?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
I mean, way high.
Wow.
And guys, that Drake, speaking of that point spread, that Drake-Iowa State game Saturday was just something unreal to watch.
Well, the weather ruined it.
It did, but, well, I don't know about ruining it.
Well, the weather, not from Drake's perspective, but the weather made it competitive, and I'm a Drake grad. I would loved it, but there's better weather. Iowa State wins that game by 3 or 4 touchdowns.
I didn't even know it was on TV, and when I tuned in shortly after the second half kickoff, I was stunned at the score, and as I watched, I just couldn't believe the number of big plays that Drake would come up with, both on defense and offense, and they were fired up.
Mm-hmm.
It was, and at first, as I'm watching it, and of course it was the Sci TV network, because of the poor quality, I thought maybe I was looking at one of those old games, and it took me a couple minutes to realize, no, this is live, this is real, and wow.
I watched it
almost from start to finish.
Oh.
And like I said, I do agree with you, but the weather was a huge factor in that game.
It leveled the playing field,
It leveled the
literally
playing
and
field,
figuratively.
yes. Iowa State didn't handle the weather near as well as Drake did.
It was just, oh, man, if they could, I just wanted Drake to win so badly.
So did I.
Oh, God.
I thought Drake's coaches had a good game plan, too. I thought they had some really good play calls on offense, and I thought they took advantage of their strengths against whatever weaknesses Iowa State may have had. No, it was and I know Matt Campbell, they said he was pretty salty in his post-game press conference.
Do you know? I know there was a City High kid playing for Drake. Were there any other local kids on the Drake roster?
Not that I want. Tom Pugh, he actually caught a touchdown pass, tied in for Drake.
Right.
Yep.
Well, that was really
neat.
something.
No, that was neat. It was a neat game, and Iowa State, those fans were breathing a huge sigh of relief for that game.
Oh, yeah.
They wanted that game just to get over. They did.
Oh, yeah. I feel bad for the fans that sat there.
Incarnate Word probably would have beaten them the way they played.
Well, with weather like that. But that was the difference of going to the Alamo. Think about that. You lose to Drake, you don't go to the Alamo Bowl.
No.
That's right.
Now That's
right.
And they will show up in droves down there, Iowa State.
Oh, and they'll have a great time.
They'll love it.
Good for them.
They will love it. They'll be all over that Riverwalk because that is a great bowl.
I thought the Big Ten title game was fun to watch. I felt shameful pulling for Ohio State, but I absolutely hate the Fighting Fitzgeralds. And
God, I was pulling for Northwestern.
No, I just couldn't do it.
So you pulled for Urban Meyer over Pat Fitzgerald?
Well, we ended up with the best of both worlds because Ohio State wasn't impressive enough, and I don't know if they could have been. And now they're relegated. They're outside the playoff format.
I just got to know, why are you in favor of Urban Meyer over Pat Fitzgerald?
I'm not. Pat Fitzgerald he's got a hate for Iowa. But
he's never said anything publicly. It's all private and based on hearsay and second. I'm with you, but he's never said anything derogatory about Iowa in public. There's not any quotes from him. It's all hearsay and people saying what he says behind the scenes.
Yeah, I like Northwestern better when they're just Northwestern.
Well, they haven't been just Northwestern since the 80s. And as long as Pat Fitzgerald's there, they're not going to be just Northwestern.
I agree.
For sure.
And I wonder if he's going to leave. There's people saying that he's going to retire from that job.
How? Well, he's not that old.
He's like 43.
Now, don't they have a five-star
Yes,
quarterback
Hunter Johnson. They got a five-star quarterback that was at Tennessee, I believe.
Yeah.
He's going to be eligible next year. He's got it rolling with those facilities, but still, you look up in that stands, even for that Northwestern game, there were empty seats everywhere.
They had to pay for their students' tickets and the bus ride to and from the game.
If I'm Fitzgerald, I'm a little pissed. Chicago's Big Ten team doesn't really back Chicago's Big Ten team.
Not even close.
They don't. They don't really show a lot of support, and I think he's earned it. Number one, he's been incredibly loyal. Do you know how many jobs he could have left for by now? I think if Pat Fitzgerald let it be known that he's interested, he would be first or second on a ton of coaching lists right now.
Absolutely.
Well, they put up a good fight and came out in the second half and made everybody go, whoa.
They just couldn't keep up with the athleticism.
No. And the Alabama-Georgia game was very entertaining. And Alabama almost took it on the chin.
I watched about half of that game. Yeah, it was a very good game.
Yeah, and you got the Heisman. I voted for my Heisman.
Yeah, who'd you vote for?
We can't share it.
Oh, that's right.
They're really strict on that. The old days, they didn't care as much. I used to write a column saying, now they you got to sign something. And so, no, I will say I voted for 3 quarterbacks. I'm just not going to tell you who I voted for.
And when you vote, you have to vote first, second, and third. Is that how it works?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Well, that'll be interesting. That's Saturday night. The Hawkeye wrestling team put a scare into us.
That was not, I don't know a ton about wrestling. I talked to Richard, and Richard was a little surprised, but,
I was way surprised.
He also said that, they did have an injury default. That was 6 points. That was huge.
Yeah.
But that explains it a little bit, but no, I mean, it shows you that maybe Iowa State's improving faster. Was that more about Iowa State, or was that more about Iowa?
I think it's about Iowa State. They came out and made a statement, and they made it loud and clear, and they very easily could have won that meet because they had, in the last match, they had the Iowa wrestler, DeSanto, down on his back, and to his credit, where most people would have been pinned, he got out of it. He gets pinned, Iowa loses the match.
Didn't Lugo lose again?
I'm sorry?
Lugo lost again, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Yeah,
he didn't look good. And the first 2 matches, our wrestlers didn't look well.
When he transferred here, I remember the cover. It was like, watch out, Penn State. There's another. I mean, right now, they got to get better. I mean, they did not have a good performance.
Well, and Kimmer being out is not
being out.
Help.
I mean, you take Kimmer out of it and you put an injury default. That's 10 points potentially shifting right there. But we just got to. I mean, just talk about they're making a run at Penn State. They just got to get better and quit worrying about that stuff right now. I love how certain people in the media will put out Iowa's projected lineup for 2020. Penn State better watch out. Enough with that stuff right now. Just try to get better now And like Brands always says, focus in instead of worrying about Penn State. You're not going to beat Penn State by worrying about Penn State. You got to get better. And to me, this was an eye opener that they got to get better.
Yep.
And
They've
that's
got
kind of
Lehi at home Saturday night at 7:30.
And Lehi's supposed to be better than Iowa State, aren't they?
Well, Penn State just skunked them.
Yeah, but that's Penn State.
Yep.
And Iowa State's not supposed to be very good this year, are they? Now, they did get this Willie Miklas now, and Jacob Warner had a big victory over him. That was, what was that, number 8 versus number 5, and Warner won 5-4. That was a huge win.
That was a huge win. You are correct. Yes.
So there's stuff to build on, and like Dirk said, they didn't lose. If you can get a wake-up call or sort of a slap in the face without suffering with a loss, to me, that could be beneficial in a number of ways.
Well, speaking of slaps in the face, interesting side story.
The Soul. Yeah.
Yeah, Sam Stoll was not supposed to wrestle at heavyweight on Saturday.
They needed him.
And he insisted to both.
Because Dirk, knew they were going to lose if he didn't wrestle.
Well, it certainly would have increased the chances of us losing.
I admire him for that.
He wouldn't take no for an answer, and supposedly, I've seen the video of him entering. The place went
I've
nuts.
seen the video, and Brands kind of slapped him on the face.
Yeah, he slapped him in the face. And
I think it would have been better had he headbutted him.
Well, what was interesting on the video is that even as he approached the mat, Brands was trying to talk him out of it. Are you sure? You don't have to do this. And
He's a warrior. He's a warrior.
Well, I mean, what if Stoll, seriously, technically, if Stoll would have said, you're right, I can't go, would we have forfeited at that point?
No,
because
they had
been announced.
I don't believe. I don't think so. I don't know the rules per se. If Richard's listening, which I'm sure he's not, I don't know the rules. But no, I don't think that would have been the case. And they would have had Costello, because they're redshirt and the big kid from Minnesota,
right?
The Cosplay. I can't pronounce his last name, but I think it was a neat moment. I think Stoll realized, man, we are in trouble. I'm going to go out there. I'm healthy enough. I'm going to win this thing, and he did. What did he win by? I can't remember the score.
It was 5-1.
Okay.
And he came right out of the gates in the first period and got a takedown, and from there on, it was just fending this opponent off, and not a whole lot of action. But he performed well enough to win handily.
But I'm sure most Iowa fans were stunned that it was that competitive.
Well, stun's a word. I think there are other words for it. The rivalry is real.
Oh, it's real.
Because
the coaches don't like each
other. Former Hawkeyes on his staff threw down the gauntlet, and they sent a very clear message that from here on out, it's going to be different. And I wouldn't be surprised if Iowa State went on and did good things the rest of the season. After this Saturday, the Hawkeyes don't wrestle again until the Midlands on the 29th and 30th of December. So, and they don't wrestle at home again after this Saturday for 5 weeks.
I know, is that amazing? What did Penn State beat Lehi by?
I tuned in yesterday, and it was 31-35-0.
Okay.
And I just get past it, so I just couldn't stand it.
Well, I don't think anyone touches Penn State this year, but we'll see. You still got to wrestle. But like I said, if you can get a wake-up call and not have to suffer the loss, you look at it, that's a positive in that way. But when I saw that match developing, I'm like, wow, this thing. I thought it would be like Iowa 30-3. I really did.
Oh, I think everyone did. Everyone.
I did. I think Brands thought it would be that too.
Switching gears a bit, did you see Desmond King had another pick six?
I watched
yesterday?
it live. Yep.
Is that his third?
I believe so. Yeah, he is just, no matter what level, he's going to make plays. That's just how he is.
He's really something.
He really is. Yes, he is.
And the Chargers are much better than I think anybody anticipated.
Yeah, but these teams, Chargers, they're in the American League or National. I know I should know.
AFL.
AFL. I'm telling you.
Wow.
I'm telling you.
Me out.
These teams, Kansas City, better not lose another game, because if they have to go to New England, they're not going to win.
Yep.
New England's going to get in that damn Super Bowl again with that 41-year-old. He threw for 300 yesterday.
Yeah.
They are just incredible. They're 8-3, and they're, to me, the team to beat again in the American League, especially if they get home field advantage.
I was disappointed to tune in this morning and hear Captain is on vacation, and I wondered why at this time. And then I thought, oh, I get it. He's off celebrating the 91st birthday of Andy Williams.
Of course.
That and Ozzy's 70th, because he called in earlier, and he and Jan were snorting ants off their sidewalk.
Did you know that Andy Williams was born in Wall Lake, Iowa?
Yes, I actually did know that at one time. I did know that. Yep.
They got famous. He and his older brothers had a singing group who became famous when they first appeared on WHO radio back in the 30s. And then WLS in Chicago broke them through the region. And then Bing Crosby brought him out to L.A. and put him in, I think, four of his movies. And
the rest is... He's not still alive, is he?
No, he died of bladder cancer 6 years ago.
Jeez.
At
So
age
he was
84.
95, 96?
He was 85 when he died.
Today would have been his 91st birthday. He was 84 when he died.
Wow.
But people forget he had a TV variety show that was pretty,
I remember
pretty
watching
good.
it. Yeah.
And had a lot of, pop culture at the time singers and groups on the show.
The Osmonds were on it a lot, I remember.
Oh, yeah. And if Steve's not celebrating Andy Williams' birthday, I wonder if maybe he isn't celebrating the 93rd anniversary of the birth of rockabilly country singer Ferlin Husky.
I'm going to say no. I'm going
You
to
don't
say
think?
On the wings of a snow white dove.
That's what he's saying? God. Thanks, Sherwin. What's his name?
Ferlin Husky.
Thanks, Ferlin, for that.
And that was his real name, Ferlin Husky, born in Gumbo, Missouri.
Gumbo. I haven't had gumbo in a while. You like gumbo?
Does that make you? I do.
Yeah, I love gumbo.
Oh, me too.
Shooter,
As long
you
as
wouldn't
it
like
ain't got no
You don't like
seafood in
onions.
it.
You don't like seafood. You don't like.
I can eat onions,
You
though. I
eat
mean,
onions?
if they're
You wouldn't
sauteed
like-
well.
You got to have seafood in gumbo if
Yeah.
it's real gumbo.
Yeah.
You know who else
Crawfish.
was born today?
No.
Mickey Thomas, lead singer of Jefferson Starship.
Please.
And most people don't realize he
Fooled
was
around
the
and
lead
fell in love.
singer of the Elvin Bishop
Yeah.
group.
But he also sang, "We built this city. We built this city." God, I hate the worst
You know,
song
he's
ever
still
made.
touring with, it's billed as Starship with Mickey Thomas.
Yeah.
I've been aware of that. The Jefferson Airplane is not touring anymore. Why? Because some of them are dead.
Yes.
Many of them are dead.
And I believe Grace Slick is pushing 80 now.
She's pushing
Well,
80.
she ain't looking good either.
So you say the slick maybe ain't appropriate
I mean,
anymore?
Not
she
so
used to
slick
just be
anymore.
unbelievably
Yes, she
hot.
did.
Oh, yes.
45 years ago. 50 years ago.
Yeah.
50 years ago.
This is also a significant date in rock and roll history. 39 years ago tonight, The Who played a concert at the Riverfront Coliseum in Cincinnati.
Yep.
11 people died in the stampede
Trampled.
when they opened the doors.
I remember reading it the next day in the paper. I'm like, wow. Because I had just started to go to concerts, and I was in junior high. I remember that.
Guys, I had an experience back in the day, well, a year before this, in 1978 at the old field house when Jackson Browne played. And it was general admission seating with chairs on the floor. And we had to wait outside the field house. And if you recall, there are steps leading up to the main entrance to the field house.
Absolutely.
And when those doors opened, I was literally carried up the steps with my feet never touching the ground. And it's a scary feeling that it's indescribable. At least it's incomparable with any other experience I've ever had. It's a very helpless, scary feeling. I was fine. I didn't get hurt. I just kind of floated with the crowd and got great seats in the sixth row.
I can't remember. How did The Who handle that? Do you guys remember?
Well, they
weren't
didn't know
told
about
it
the
until
tragedy
afterwards.
until after the show.
So they were gone from the stadium and everything? Or 'cause it happened before the
they
show,
were
right?
told when they came off stage what had happened.
Because
and
didn't
they
some
were
people get
devastated.
mad that they played the show and they blamed The Who at first?
Right.
And then they found out later The Who had no idea anyone was hurt.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
Because
That
there
is
was
right.
controversy. They felt that they should not have played the show.
Right.
But
And
they
that's-
didn't know.
And that's what put an end, for the most part, to festival seating.
Yes,
Uh-huh.
and to
That's
open
right.
up the door and just go
Right.
in. You couldn't
Right.
do that anymore.
Right.
Think of that. You're going to see The Who and you die.
Yeah.
That's
And
bleak.
WKRP in Cincinnati, the TV sitcom, did a really nice
They did.
tribute show.
Yes, they did.
about
I remember
this.
that.
Yep.
And it was really touching. In fact, I saw that a week or two ago. They aired that episode on MeTV, and it brought back a lot of memories.
39 years ago. I remember
Well,
that like it was yesterday.
Yeah, and 50 years ago, NBC broadcast the Elvis comeback special.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
That was 50 years ago tonight?
That's correct.
Wow. I remember that was a big deal.
Didn't he do a hell of a job? Wasn't he?
It was big deal. Yeah,
wasn't he coherent and?
Well, he hadn't performed
And he
since
was thin.
he went into the Army, because as soon as he came out of the Army, Hollywood. He did.
Yeah,
he did pictures.
He looked great. Sounded great.
Came out with a black leather jacket. Had his old guys from the 50s.
That's right. I remember
playing on a theater in the
It was a good show. I remember.
It was awesome.
He'd been living off amphetamine for months just to get his weight down and to get. I'm serious, and to fit back into that black leather outfit,
and it worked.
He put on a great show, and it revived his career.
Yep.
Yes, it did.
And also, today's the anniversary of the release of Rubber Soul, which is a very influential Beatles record. Never a top, not on anybody's top list, but it's always right up there.
Wasn't that their first venture into trippy kind of?
Yes. And then it reached the peak with Sgt. Pepper's, right?
That's my go-to record when I move and I reset up my stereo. I always put side one, cut one of Rubber Soul on my turntable to make sure it sounds good, because that's I've just seen a face and it's got that great warm acoustic sound. Mm-hmm. That's how I know everything.
What's your favorite Beatles album? Do you have a favorite?
Oh boy, no, it wouldn't be Sgt. Pepper's.
White Album.
White Album got too much crap on.
How about Revolver?
Revolver was great.
Awesome.
I'll always go with Meet the Beatles. That to me is still my favorite Beatles album. Every song was revelatory.
I loved Abbey Road too.
Yeah.
I honestly that's got to be right up there for me.
What's your favorite Stones album, Dirk?
Exile on Main Street, greatest album of all time of any band anywhere ever.
So that's
period.
So without debate, that's just.
I would venture that no band ever put 5 top-rate albums out in a row, starting with Beggar's Banquet, Let It Bleed, Get Your Yayas Out, Sticky Fingers.
I'm not a huge
and
Stones
Exile.
fan, but
no one's come close to doing that in a row like that.
You got to give our drunken menace friend Jim Morrison a little credit, because in 4 years they put out.
They did.
I mean, every album they put out was incredible, and he was drunk and incoherent and ridiculous, and they still were able to function.
And hugely popular.
And he soiled himself. And he was just a mess.
Yep.
Captain doesn't like him. Captain makes fun of him.
That's his choice.
But no, there are some great albums out there. God, if I had to rank my top 10 albums, I don't think I could.
It's hard. It's so hard.
I don't know if I could.
I couldn't even rank my top 10 Beatle albums.
I know.
Much less bringing in other
Let
bands.
It Be was, I thought, really special. And at the time we bought it, we knew, or at least we were led to believe, this was going to be their last album. Because back then you didn't have the internet, and we didn't know they'd already broken up a year earlier.
Right.
Yeah.
And
now it'd be all over Twitter.
It didn't Let It Be have a red apple on the label?
Yes. The original issue did. Yes.
Made it special and unique. And,
well, here I'm sure I will endear myself to you guys if I was to rank my top 10, it may not include a Beatles or Stones album.
That's
I like both bands.
Enough.
Don't get me wrong, but it may
Fair
not.
Enough.
It may be heavy on a little Floyd, and I mean Paul Simon Graceland would be in my top 10.
That's a great album.
And so would London Calling by the Clash.
Yeah,
that's an incredible album.
When I was in college, I was working at a radio station, and I went in early one night and I made 2 mixtapes, 2 90-minute tapes of the Beatles, because they had that 62 to 66 and 67 to 70. Well, I could do 90 minutes on each one. And when I'm in a bad mood or I'm not feeling good or something, nothing delights me more than listening to that 62 to 66 because it's so exuberant.
I was going to ask you, all right, Tom,
and so much fun to listen to.
Yeah. So do you like 62 to 66 better than 66 to 70?
I do.
That age?
It was fresher in a lot of ways because of the energy, and it was just it changed not just music, but it changed society.
Yeah.
And most of it was mono instead of stereo.
Well, and when you bought the stereo records in America, they called the full dimensional stereo, where they put a little slap echo on them. And when you got this, when they came out on CD and they were all, the original recordings without that echo, it sounded weird at the time. Now we're used to it. But.
Well, listen to the beginning of I'm Looking Through You, and the stereo mix has got kind of a false start on it.
Yep. And last year's 50th anniversary reissue of Sgt. Pepper with the remix by George Martin's son is revelatory. The White Album I got when that came out this month this month, and it's okay, But
Did you buy it, Jim?
I did.
Oh, I've heard it. The people I know that have bought it said it's just like a new album.
Yeah, I thought more like that with Sgt. Pepper than I did the White Album. I mean, there's some cuts that you can definitely tell there's a big difference.
I like the White Album, but it didn't. I like other Beatle albums
too
more.
much crap.
Our mutual friend Bart Shore sent me a bunch of the outtakes, and I just love them.
Yeah, I bought the consumer version, not the 6-disc version, but the 3-disc and the Escher demo disc. Is pretty cool.
You know, I can honestly say if I were to rank, I could probably rank it number 1, and it would be Dark Side of the Moon. Would probably be I would start with Dark Side of the Moon because it probably is to me, and Terrapin Station by the Grateful Dead would definitely be in my top.
All-time classic albums.
Great. Have you guys listened to Terrapin Station?
Oh yeah.
I love that.
And Dark Side of the Moon has the same effect as Sgt. Pepper almost because it was so weirdly different, but still
groundbreaking,
but still listenable.
And Wish You Were Here would maybe be in my top 10.
It's a good one
That's
as well.
A great
It's
album.
right up there with mine.
It all just depends on what your likes and dislikes. Like I like both the Stones and the Beatles, but they're not my Doors and Led Zeppelin and Steely Dan. I think Steely Dan's first debut album, would maybe great album.
And Led Zeppelin's debut
yes.
album.
They're definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
They were definitely. I mean, you could go on.
Yeah,
we should have asked Don. Next time we get Don on, we'll ask him for his favorite albums.
I really enjoyed hearing Don's take on what's his face from Kansas State.
Yeah, that was good
and
stuff.
Bill Snyder,
his knowledge of Mississippi State was very good
Yeah,
already.
he
very
had a lot
helpful.
Hawks got their hands full at the bowl game, but it's going to be fun. I can't wait. We've hashed it out. I got to get
All
back
right,
to work,
Dirk.
guys. Thanks for
But yeah, they do have their hands full, but
beat everybody.
That's what you hope in a January bowl game, that you face a good opponent, because if you do beat them, you're going to reap the benefit of that. So,
absolutely.
God, we just killed 2 hours.
Yeah, we did, and we're going to thank you guys.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks. And allhawkeyes.com.
Oh, and hey, Willie Fleming called me the other day.
Oh, he did?
Out of the blue, and I'm trying to explain to him what we got going on. I'm not sure he completely understands, but I'm hoping maybe Wednesday. I'll see. I'm going to reach back out to him again. It's just a matter of he lives in Ohio. It's just a matter of kind of fitting it into his schedule. But he's back from Jamaica. He was down there for like 3 weeks, so I'm working on it.
Well, that'd be great. All right, allhawkeyes.com. Get your subscription today.
We will take a break. Police Reports Deluxe Edition tomorrow, and Molly Suter's coming up next. Thanks for listening.
I'm Patrick Eads, owner of Deary Brothers Ford Lincoln of Iowa City. We know that anybody can sell you a car one time. At Deary Brothers Ford, we believe in providing you with an outstanding ownership experience from a relaxed, easy purchase process with one of our dedicated sales professionals to one of the area's most experienced service departments to keep you on the road. Remember, anyone can sell you a car once. At Deary Brothers Ford in Iowa City, we want to be your dealer today, tomorrow, and always your dealer for life. Let us show you how we take care of our customers. Deary Brothers Ford in Iowa City and online at DearyFord.com. It's a great time to buy a car, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you.
If you are looking for creative, eye-popping graphics, look no further than Zephyr Sign and Graphics. Zephyr specializes in vehicle graphics, posters, indoor and outdoor banners, stretched canvas signs, vinyl, plastic, or frame metal yard signs. Call Zephyr Signs and Graphics at 351-3500. That's 351-3500. And ask for the large format department. For incredibly creative and effective signs and graphics, stop by Zephyr Signs and Graphics in the heart of downtown Iowa City's Penn Mall at 125 South Dubuque Street.
Over the years, car keys have gotten extremely complex. Mike's Lock and E-Keys for Cars can generate the most technically advanced automotive keys on the market today. Mike's Lock and E-Keys for Cars can produce most conventional transponder, sidewinder, and remote-headed keys. If you've lost the keys to your car or simply need a duplicate, call 330-9185. Mike's Lock and E-Keys for Cars has the technology to keep you on the road. Call 330-9185 and schedule an appointment today.
As a physician or staff member treating illness and injury every day, you want to get your patients back on their feet quickly. I'm Stacy Cremines, the administrator at Bounce Back Facility at Windmill Manor. I welcome you to come tour Bounce Back with me. The Bounce Back Facility is one of the area's most complete rehabilitation centers with state-of-the-art equipment. An award-winning staff directed by Dr. Stan Matthew, Bounce Back really does have the tools for all therapies. Give your patients the best rehab possible. The Bounce Back programs of Windmill Manor of Coralville. Online at windmillmanor.com.
From your friends at Henry's Painting, thank you and best wishes for a happy holiday season and a new year of health and happiness. the season's best from Henry's Painting.
GT Carr, owner of Supple Siding and Remodeling, offers service and quality that is unmatched in the area. At Supple Siding and Remodeling, their trained professionals will install and guarantee the products used in any size job done, regardless of the project. Supple Siding and Remodeling will stand behind their quality products and installation with exceptional customer service. Whether it's a window replacement, a kitchen remodel, or a house addition, our employees are committed to quality. Visit sales at supples.net or call 337-2246. Car won't go into gear? Call Premier. Premier Automotive in North Liberty offers full-service mechanical auto repair, in addition to being Eastern Iowa's most trusted name in auto body repair. Use Premier for all your auto repair needs: brakes, oil changes, air conditioning, diagnostics, transmissions, or preventative maintenance. Whether you hit a deer or your car won't go into gear, see Premier Automotive in North Liberty.
Dad, we want movies!
Hello, I'd like to switch to DirecTV. I want over 150 channels with HD DVR service and equipment fee included for one receiver.
DirecTV. Package offers start at incredibly low monthly prices. Call now.
Big Dog TV and Internet, 395-0800, or stop by and see us on Players Ferry Road in Cedar Rapids. Ends 8/31/18, 24-month agreement required, $35 activation, early termination fee of $20 per month for each remaining month on agreement. Equipment non-return and additional fees apply. New approved customers only. Equipment lease required. Restrictions apply. Call for details.
Active Endeavors is your travel and adventure store. Since 1986, their experts have been outfitting travelers with great apparel and equipment from Patagonia, Eagle Creek, Osprey, and more. And with winter coming sooner than you think, check out their wide variety of coats, boots, and winter clothing from Patagonia, Arc'teryx, Smartwool, Icebreaker, Sorrel, and Keen. Everything you need at competitive prices spread out over 5 floors.